implication. And Mr. Wade, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Sure.
I now call the Jasper County Planning Commission meeting to order. We will have our implication and Pledge of Allegiance in unison.
Let us pray. Our Heavenly Father God, it's again and another time, Lord, that we come before your presence. First of all, Lord, thanking you for all your many blessings that you have bestowed upon us, Lord, individually and collectively. Lord, we thank you how you've been with us throughout this day, Lord, and we ask that you just continue to be with us throughout this meeting, Lord, that the things that we do and say may be pleasing to you. And Father, please go with the family, Deacon Curtis Brantley, and the loss of their brother Clarence, and bless that family right now, Lord, and give them the that only you can give. Father, we thank you for all your many blessings. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
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 I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen. We'd like to thank Dr. Boston for that prayer, and we thank Mr. Wade for leading us in the pledge. The first thing on the agenda is approval of the agenda for this evening.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Second, Bill Young.
And a motion has been made by Mr. Jenkins and seconded by Mr. Bill Young. All in favor of such motion, let it know by saying aye.
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 And opposed by the same sign. The next thing on the agenda for this evening, approving of the minutes from the April 13, 2021 meeting. What are your pledges?
Commissioner Jenkins, so move, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Mr. Jenkins. Do I hear a second?
Second. By Butler.
Dr. Butler, ready for questions?
Questions?
All in favor of such motion, let it know by saying aye.
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 Any opposed by the same sign? This evening, we have four items on our agenda for action. And I also see that in the May 3rd meeting of the Jasper County Council, they did a reappointment. And Mr. Jenkins' term expires in 2022. Mr. Randy Wade, term expired in 2022. Dr. Earl Boss' term expired in 2024, and Alex Pinckney expired in 2024. Mr. Bill Young made a request that he's wanting to leave when they find somebody to replace him. But I know I like to thank the county council for putting in trust in us to continue to do the work of the county. And Ms. Wagner, I'd like you to pass that on, that we appreciate they reappoint us, and we will continue to serve in a way that would make the county proud of us.
I'll do it.
The first thing on there, a change of a legal non-conformity use at 2555 Plantation Drive. Ms. Wagner, would you bring us up to date on that?
Yes, the applicant, James Ware, is requesting that the Planning Commission change the non-conforming use at 2555 Plantation Drive to allow a construction business to be established. Previously, the property was used for construction. Mr. Ware is a fiber cable contractor and would like to use the property as a storage yard for his business. He has approximately 35 employees, and they work from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. Most of their work is out of state, so employees and the equipment will rarely be on site. However, reels of conduit and fiber cable would be stored inside the existing building. In December 2020, the Planning Commission reviewed and approved a request to change the use from construction to allow a pump fabricator business. The pump fabricator business did not establish their business at this location. If this request is approved, it would simply allow the same use that was grandfathered in last year. The property is currently zoned residential and consists of 3 acres, a commercial buildings located on site, and was previously home to Palm Beach Graydon, who utilized the site from 2006 until last summer. PBG was a site development contractor. The property was originally developed and permitted for commercial use in 2002. During the 2007 countywide rezoning, this site was made non-conforming. In accordance with Article 9:3.10 of the Jasper County zoning ordinance, when a nonconforming use of land ceases for a continuous period of 12 months, subsequent use of the land shall conform to the regulations for the zoning district in which the land is located, unless otherwise provided for in this ordinance. An extension of the 12-month time frame may be approved by the Planning Commission in accordance with Section 9:3.7, number 2, if requested during the original 12-month time frame. The purpose of the nonconformity ordinance is to address certain but not all nonconformities created through the 2007 countywide zoning project. Numerous structures and uses that were lawfully established prior to the zoning project became nonconforming as a result. Some are major employees and have made significant investment into construction totaled in the millions of dollars. Other business expansions may also be limited by legal nonconformity status, or the economic use of valuable structures may be prevented if not considered by the Planning Commission. According to Jasper County zoning ordinance, Article 9:3.7, number 2, any modifications to a nonconforming use, including a change in use, the reestablishment of a nonconforming use, or any expansions or alterations to the use which do not otherwise conform to all provisions of this ordinance shall require approval by the Planning Commission. In determining whether a nonconforming use, change, reestablishment, or expansion of the nonconforming use is appropriate, the Planning Commission shall consider the following standards. The proposed nonconforming use will be harmonious with the surrounding area. In this case, the property was developed in 2002 as commercial and has been used for commercial ever since until last summer. The applicant's not asking to change the use or increase the intensity of the use from previous years, so there will be no changes to the surrounding area. The proposed nonconforming use will be a desirable addition to the physical pattern of the neighborhood. In this case, currently the building is vacant, which is not a desirable situation. If approved by the Planning Commission, the building will be utilized and maintained. The third thing is any additional traffic resulting from the proposed nonconforming use will not be a burden on existing streets. The proposed use is for a storage yard, so the traffic increase will be very minimal. The fourth thing to consider is no adverse environmental impacts, including noise, smoke, dust, fumes, vapors, gases, heat, odor, glare, vibration, etc., will be created by the proposed nonconforming use. The proposed business will not generate any noise, smoke, dust, fumes, vapors, gases, heat, odor, glare, or vibration. The fifth point to consider is outdoor storage or activities are limited and subject to review and may require increased setbacks and buffers. Equipment and vehicles may be stored outside from time to time. Pictures of the equipment are attached to the staff report, as well as a property use narrative, which explains the types of vehicles that are owned by this business. So if you read that, you notice it's no big trucks, or anything like that. It was mainly just 4 pieces of equipment, and then they have some work trucks. And the sixth thing is the proposed use is considered to be a benefit to the community in Jasper County as a whole by implementing goals of the Jasper County Comprehensive Plan. The economy chapter goal states develop businesses and attract public and private investment to grow jobs, decrease unemployment, and strengthen the local economy, While this is a business opportunity, the comprehensive plan does not specifically speak to this situation from an economic perspective. The future land use chapter identifies the future land use map identifies this area as rural transition, which are areas that are located in southern Jasper County and will likely be under pressure to develop within the foreseeable future. Public notice letters were sent to area property owners on April 28th. The subject property was also posted on that same day with a public hearing notice to satisfy the notice requirements in Article 9:3.7. We've not received any comments from the letters we sent or the sign that we posted on property. Staff does recommend approval to change the non-conforming use from a pump fabricator back to construction use. The applicant's here with us tonight. If you have any questions for me or for him.
Well, I'd like to hear from the applicant, please.
Okay.
Hey, good evening, fellas and ladies and gentlemen. My name is James. I'm actually out of state right now, so I apologize if the connection is not good. But I welcome any questions that you guys might have for me.
Any of the commission have any questions for the applicant?
I have a question, Mr. Pinckney.
Dr. Bossett?
They sent us some pictures of the equipment that they'll be using. Is this the largest piece of equipment that we're looking at? The small Kubota loader and the other little instrument. There'll be no larger equipment than what we're looking at.
No, those pictures are actual photographs of my equipment.
Okay, so we don't have any large equipment than this that was stored.
No, sir. The previous use that Palm Beach Grading had, they had enormous equipment, and my equipment is nowhere near that size.
Okay.
My equipment is all small.
And you said most of your storage will be inside.
We'll utilize the building for as much storage as we can, but the equipment that's meant to stay outside, like skid steers and the small excavator that you see a picture of there, those will be stored outside.
Okay. Okay. No more questions.
Any other questions? Any other commissioners?
Mr. Pinckney, this is Deborah Butler. I have a question for Lisa, if we're moving on to that.
Yes, go ahead, Dr. Buckner.
Okay, Lisa, in Article 9.3, under number 5, when it's talking about encouraging a gradual upgrading of the non-conforming site, how does that apply to this location?
So that's not eliminate the non-conforming uses that are allow legal to remain until they're discontinued. So as far as this site is concerned, if they weren't granted a change of use, and if the use ceases for a period of 12 months or more, they basically would not be able to use the site for anything other than what's allowed in the residential zone. I mean, so I see you're talking about number D, the landscape
Letter
park
D.
and
Right,
paving.
right. Which would give a buffer between the residents that are located around the property. And I couldn't tell, and it's been a while since I've ridden by there to see what kind of buffers there are between the homeowners that live next to this location. And I just wondered if that would be a part of what's required.
So usually when they expand, do an addition or anything like that, we do ask for them to meet the requirements of the ordinance. I do believe there is a fairly large vegetative buffer on each side yard and
Okay.
in the rear.
Okay,
You know, if the planning commission felt that landscaping need to be added across the front along the roadway, I mean, you could ask for that as a condition of the approval.
oh, okay. To improve the overall look in the community. I have another question. We previously denied a request for a storage location at this site. Wasn't the airplane repurposing business, wasn't that what they had planned? And they were
Yeah,
denied?
except they didn't ask for a change of the use. They wanted a rezone. And if you remember, they came to us and they first wanted, I'd have to go back and look, either it was industrial development or mixed business. And then we talked about general commercial. So they came back with general commercial.
Okay, so they
winded
never,
up relocating to a different spot, but they
Okay.
never did ask to have their business. We did talk to them about that, but they never came back with an application to look at it from approving a legal non-conforming use.
okay. And this change to this non-conforming use is specific to this business. Is that right?
Yes, so if it were approved, the only thing that would be allowed to go there is a construction, a contractor type of business. That's all you'd be approving. You wouldn't be approving any other uses.
Okay, so it could not go back to heavy construction without coming back to us. Is that right?
So construction would be included. So you have three kinds of construction. You have your heavy, you have a general construction, a general contractor type of construction, and you have a residential. So you would be approving construction. Basically, those would be the three things covered under there. But you wouldn't be approving manufacturing, or you wouldn't be approving distribution or retail, and you wouldn't be approving any of the other uses of any kind.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Wade.
ready, wait. Lisa, if the business was to change hands, the property was to change hands, and the non-conforming use, would that stay with the change or I mean, with the owner or what? How would
It
that work?
stays with the property, so it
Okay.
is the land use. It goes with the property. So unless
But
it ceased for a period of 12 months.
But if they were to change the use, they would have to come back before us. In other words, if they were to change it to industrial or
That's right.
manufacturing or something like that, they would have to come back to us, right?
That's right.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I'm ready to entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we accept the recommendation of Lisa concerning this property for approval.
I'll second that.
A motion have been made by Dr. Boston, second by Mr. Wade. Ready for question? Hearing none, all in favor, let it known by the sign of aye.
Aye.
By the same sign. Hearing none, the motion is carried. Okay, the next thing on the agenda for this evening is a zoning map amendment. Mixed business request, tax map number 083-00-03-058. Ms. Wagner, you can bring us up to date on this, please?
Yes, sir. The subject property consists of 3 acres and is located at 5851 Low Country Drive. The applicant has requested a zone map amendment to have the property designated as mixed business. The property is currently zoned community commercial. 2 commercial structures are located on the property. One is approximately 6,000 square feet, and the other one is approximately 15,000 square feet. According to the assessor's property record, the property is valued at more than $600,000. The property was developed in 1999 and has been home to rollaway doors, armor building solutions. Each of these, and I left one, Rondeville, I left that out of the staff report by accident. Each of these businesses has used the site for warehousing, manufacturing, and fabrication, showrooms, and offices. The Planning Commission approved an extension of the time frame for cessation of nonconforming use at their April meeting. The zoning map amendment application and request is reviewed by considering the comprehensive plan, and according to the future land use map, this area is identified as rural conservation, which seeks to protect and promote the character of Jasper County that largely exists today outside of the municipalities. Most development, particularly commercial development, should be guided to the hamlets. It should be noted, if you look at the comprehensive plan's land use exhibit, it shows this area as a commercial area. The adjacent parcels are zoned community commercial, rural preservation with industrial development and general commercial nearby. The adjacent land uses are commercial, industrial, and vacant property that's planned for mixed use development. The subject property is accessed by Low Country Drive, which is a 2-lane state maintained highway classified as an arterial road. From a land use perspective, staff recommends approval of the request to have the property designated as mixed business.
Is the applicant present,
The applicant is with us.
or do you have anything he would like to say before we go into discussion?
Not really. Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not really. Lisa summed it up. I don't know. Most of you probably remember going through it last month. The property is intended for this type of use, and unlike the previous property, there's no residential around it or anything of that nature. We do have interested parties that would use the facility right along the lines of a mixed business. So I don't really have much to add. It kind of just makes a lot of sense for where that property is located.
Put it in only one bag. Yeah. We'll count out 60. Okay, you'll heard from the applicant. Anyone have any questions for the applicant, Ms. Wagner?
I have one question. Since we considered this last week as leaving it as legal, non-conforming, or changing it to commercial, why wasn't this considered at our last meeting? If you wanted to go to this extra step, mixed business, why wasn't that considered at that time?
So it was considered by the applicant. I thought I explained that at the last meeting, but so when he called, we did discuss that, prior to your review in April, and not knowing if that would pass or not, we were more or less a little worried if the can got kicked down the road for another month, he was soon going to lose that 12-month cessation was going to be up. So it seemed more important to get the uses locked in to buy him some time.
Oh, yes, I remember now. I think we had a buyer for the property and a realtor and all that, and we didn't want to lose up. Okay, I got it. I remember.
Yes, sir. And if y'all would indulge me just for a minute, I'm going to share the screen just to point out a few things about this that didn't clearly show. Well, I say I'm going to share. Yes. Here we go. Okay. So this is the site here, outlined in red. This shows that it's general commercial, this red, but that's the wrong piece. It's this area here. It's 30 acres here that's zone general commercial. This piece that comes in right beside him and it's zone community commercial where the error is, that's an industrial use. Cleveland has a site there. And then you have industrial back here, and you also have the waste management is back here. And then if you see all the way across the screen, across the highway, this green area at the top, that's the town of Richland. So that's a planned development district through the town. So that is just to show you how close the town limits are, because that does actually come very close to the highway on 462, but I just couldn't get it all in one screenshot. So I just, again, wanted to show you a little larger picture of what's actually out there as far as the zoning and the types of uses.
Uh,
Now I have to figure out how to oh, I see, stop share. Okay.
Chairman Pinckney, I have one question.
Yes, go ahead, Dr. Butler.
Lisa, could you kind of give an idea of what would be allowed in the mixed business versus community commercial? I know it's more, I don't want you to go into a big thing, but the things that might be of most interest to people that live in that area. Is there anything that would really stick out like a sore thumb?
So the main thing with mixed business, it according to our ordinance, to do any type of fabrication or manufacturing, you need industrial development or mixed business. With mixed business, it's a conditional use. Basically, it's kind of set up that in order to meet the conditions, you would need indoor use. So you're not having heavy industrial outside. It's all indoors in a building. That is the main thing and the main reason for the mixed business. The mixed business, again, would protect the area from any outdoor industrial type of uses. And you couldn't get that in community commercial at all.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Jenkins.
Yes, Mr. Jenkins, you go ahead.
Lisa, if I'm correct, is you talking about this piece of property where the greenery and then on the same side of the road is where the bowling hall fish market and there's a church right there. That's the area you're talking about right on 462?
That is the same area.
Is it already mixed business? Because there's a fish market there, there's a greenery business there.
Actually, it's zone community commercial. Most of those establishments, they were there prior to this zoning ordinance. So some, like the fish market, it's allowed in community commercial. Some of the uses that aren't allowed is, again, like they were doing fabrication type of uses in this building. They always have, and manufacturing uses with the rollaway doors and the hurricane shutters, and also like the Cleveland, that I don't even know exactly what that is. If it's a lay down yard, it seems to, It's pretty heavy industrial if you've ever been in there, and the of course the landfill. So
Right.
those don't, well, the area that's industrial development that fits, but the other things there doesn't fit. Um,
Yeah, because I think Cleveland is there, the landfill is there, the fish market is there, the church is there, the greenery is there. So, I just want to make sure that's the same piece of property that we're talking about.
yes, sir, it is, and it's actually before coming from Ridgeland, you would get
Right,
to this property.
From Cooler Stowaway on the right, all those
Yep.
businesses that on the right. Okay.
Yeah. So it's been used for this type of business since the inception of the property being developed. And we do have a mix of things out there.
Okay. I just want to make sure that's the right piece I'm looking at.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
Lisa, did you post a sign out there?
We did, yes, sir.
Okay.
And I saw it one day just in the past couple days. I rode by there. I don't even remember what day.
And you
but I
haven't
saw
gotten
it.
any response?
We have not, no, sir.
Yeah, I mean, it's surrounded pretty much by just woods, open land. In the front and the back and the side, other than right beside it. And that, I believe, is a vacant lot now. Has a couple of sign sites, but that's it. It's just a vacant lot. So,
And
okay, that's
actually,
all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Matthews Marine is they've made an application to use that vacant lot as a storage for an overflow of their boats. So that's going through the site plan process right now.
Mr. Chairman, my last question. Lisa, isn't there some residence sits between this property and the greenery and the fish market? Isn't there some people live right there next door to this fish market?
There is one person that I know of that lives on the side of the fish market, and they sit back, and then the other residents, they're down Strobart Road.
Right.
So,
Okay.
yeah. So
Yeah, but
there's
they
not a
have-
resident adjacent to this site at all.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Lisa.
You're welcome.
anyone else have any questions or comment? I just wanted to remind the commissioners, this project had been before us 2 years back, and it was turned down for the reason of not having decelerating lanes and with the traffic, that 2-lane road. So is that still a concern? Or have that been looking at?
Mr. Penny, could you repeat that? I'm sorry, I didn't understand. This is Deborah Butler.
Where this property at, it'll be entering 462, which is a 2-lane highway, a heavy traffic road.
Mhm.
And they don't have decelerating lanes nor on a lane to approaching lane on that 462 where this property is. And
Is
one
that
of the
not governed?
things considering when you doing a zoning change is the traffic.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Jenkins, I don't have any problem with it because I don't think it would generate more traffic than what the former business been in there generating. But my final question, if Lisa could ask the applicant, what would be their time of operation? But I have no objection to,
No,
approving it to mixed
that's not
business.
the question.
I know that's
So
not the
when
question,
you
but I just, while you're talking, I just want her to, include that.
Let me explain. When it's on the non-conformance, it's subject to one thing and one thing only. When it goes to changing the zoning, there's a multitude of things to be put in mixed business. And this same project, property had been before us before, and it was turned down due to the traffic. And I think Mr. Bill Young, the one explained it in detail the last time. I just wanted to make you aware of that before I call for a vote.
I think that was the property across the street on the corner of the U-Haul Creek Road or Strawberry Hill Road. That was going to be a new site. So this one received they have a DOT driveway and an encroachment permit from when they developed in 1999.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out, this is the owner. I've occupied that building for 9 years, so I don't believe, Chairman Pinkney, with all due respect, I don't believe that's the same piece of property unless it was longer ago than that. Yeah, I've been in that building since 2012. Just wanted to point that out.
And Mr. Chairman, I think that was the piece of the property on the other side of the church. Weren't that the piece of property, Lisa, back up there on the other side of that church?
Well, no, this is across the highway and it's on the corner of 462 and Miss Billiards had that. They're the
Right,
ones that
okay.
came to the planning commission and
Okay.
requested a rezone, and it was a vacant spot and they were trying to sell it. And it's
Okay.
right across the highway on the
Okay.
corner of Strawberry Hill Road and 462.
Okay.
The one you're talking about, Mr. Jenkins, that was back when Mr. Linoleum Edge, it is right around the church, right by the church, and there was 30 acres there rezoned to general commercial
Right.
and behind the church.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions or comment? Hearing none, I'm ready to entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the property designated as 083-00-03-058 for mixed use, for mixed business.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Jenkins, second.
A motion have been made and properly second. Ready for question? Hearing none, all in favor of such motion, let it know by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by the same sign? Hearing none, the motion carried unanimous.
Thank you.
The next two is initiated by staff, and the first one is a zoning map change from general commercial request, tax map number 06700-001-002. So in the narrative, Ms. Wagner put in there that staff is requesting this so these properties can be zoned properly. And she'll give us all the reasons and what we should do.
So this property, it consists of 7.24 acres. It's located along Argent Boulevard. The property is owned by the Low Country Regional Transportation Authority, and it is undeveloped. The property is zoned Planned Development District, but it's not located within a PDD, and it's actually zoned as part of Hardyville's PDD. So the property is for sale, and just because there's been some inquiries by the LRTA is how we became aware of it. And so I just thought that we probably should take action to have it zoned properly, because it's not a it's not in Hardyville and it's not a PDD. The comprehensive plan future land use map identifies this area as a commercial center, which are commercial nodes that are already developed and have a suburban rather than a rural character. The adjacent parcels are zoned general commercial and community commercial, and the property is adjacent to the city of Hardyville as well. Adjacent land uses are commercial and vacant property, which is planned for mixed use development through the city. The property is accessed by Argent Boulevard, which is a 2-lane state maintained highway classified as an arterial road. I would just say at this time, there's no plans for development. Again, they're trying to sell it. So I don't know, in the future there could be. There are some wetlands on the property. It might need to be accessed by Carolina Drive, but at this time the staff is just requesting to have the property rezoned as general commercial.
Any questions, comment from any of the commissioners?
This is Deborah Butler. Lisa, on the copy of the map that I have, it shows that this is a PDD.
That's right. That's how it's zoned, but that's incorrect. I mean,
that's
it's not really part of a PDD, but, and if you notice the piece right next to it, which is in blue showing as a PDD, that's the Hardyville PDD. On the county GIS, it's actually showing the LRTA property that we're reviewing tonight is part of that PDD. So it is zoned PDD, but it's not really part of any PDD.
Oh, okay. Thank
Lisa.
you.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Wade.
Lisa, now correct me if I'm wrong, but it looks like to me, using the GIS map overlay, that this property is literally surrounded by Hardyville.
I believe that is correct. Let me see. Okay, yes. So
the only place that it's not
is across the street.
Right, across the street to the south.
You're exactly right.
Okay. Has there been any thoughts of coming into the city of Hardyville?
Like I said, there's no plan to develop it at this time. The Low Country Regional Transportation Authority, they're just looking to sell it. But as they've called and just made inquiries about the property, I became aware that it's zoned PDD. Hardyville called me to say, because they get our agenda, to say, hey, what's going on? I told them it's just staff initiated because it has incorrect zoning on it. So no, sir, we've not had that discussion. They're looking to get rid of the property. We don't know who will buy it at this time. There's no plan to develop it. If they go to develop it, whoever might buy it, then that certainly can be a conversation. Depending on what they want to do, they would, if they go to the city, they would get more density if they wanted to use it for any type of multifamily or residential. And again, half of it is wet. It just doesn't have the right zoning, is why I brought it to you.
Well, it looks like also on the GIS map that all the surrounding area that is zoned Hardyville is also undeveloped land.
That's right, but that is a planned development district for mixed use through Hardyville.
Okay, it looks like that the property to the west would be is zoned general commercial, looks like, by Hardyville. And then the property to the north and to the east would be the PDD.
So the part that says general commercial for that part of Hardyville, that's part of the East Argent tract. I believe that's part of their planned development district of the East Argent tract.
And that's why it's showing on the GIS map when you do the Jasper zoning as a PDD?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And the area that you see in blue just across the street, but just below that, shows community commercial in the county. I believe every one of those properties have been rezoned to general commercial. If not, I know at least two of them have been.
It looks like everything to the south is general commercial. Is what it looks like. Across the street.
Yeah, they have been rezoned. We have done some rezonings there to general commercial.
Okay, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, comments, from any other commissioner?
Mr. Chairman, Lisa,
Yes.
am I in order, Mr. Chairman? Commissioner Jenkins.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Jenkins.
Lisa, so before we can change this to a general commercial, we first have to go back and change the incorrect zoning first, right? The Hardyville PDB before we can go to general commercial.
So on our official zoning map, it's just showing that it's zoned a planned development district. So if you were to rezone it, it would be designated with whatever zoning you feel is appropriate, whether that's general commercial or a different type of zoning. So that would actually correct it. The rezoning would correct it.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, I have one more question for Lisa, if you don't mind.
Yes, Mr. Wade.
Lisa, now this is a staff initiated. Why did you think general commercial as opposed to community commercial? In other words, community commercial is a little bit more restrictive, which would still allow for commercial use, because I don't think residential would be proper in this area. But community commercial to me seems like it would be more appropriate because it's more restrictive than the general commercial, which was less restrictive and allows for much more greater use.
Just because in the comprehensive plan it was identified as being a part of a commercial center, and across the street it's all general commercial, and the other properties shown in blue that show community commercial, they've been rezoned to general commercial, and then it was surrounded by Hardyville's PDD. So that's why I recommended general commercial.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, any other question or comments? Hearing none, I'm ready to entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, this is Commissioner Smith. I make a motion that commission accepts staff's recommendation, rezone to general commercial.
I'll second it, Bill Young.
Okay, a motion that's been made and properly second. Ready for question? Hearing none, all in favor, let it know by saying aye.
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 And opposed by the same sign. Hearing none, the motion is carried. So it's approved unanimously. Zoning map, residential request, tax map number 03801-00-003.
So this is a staff initiated rezoning request as well. The subject property consists of 0.69 acres and is located at 186 Macedonia Road. The property is owned by Maria Hernandez, and it has a manufactured home located on site. The property is currently zoned resource conservation, which makes it a non-conforming lot. The resource conservation zoning district requires a minimum lot size of 2 acres. So this is a staff initiated effort to have the property appropriately zoned. The Jasper County Comprehensive Plan, the future land use map identifies this area as an urban transition, which are pockets of unincorporated Jasper County that are partially or entirely surrounded by either the city of Hardyville or the town of Bridgeland. For these areas that experience new development or redevelopment, consideration should be given to working with the adjacent municipality for annexation. The property does not touch the city of Hardyville, although the city limits are nearby. The adjacent parcels are zoned residential. Adjacent land uses are residential and vacant property. There is a church nearby in this community. And the property is accessed by Macedonia Road, which is a 2-lane state maintained highway, but it's classified as a limited local road. So from a land use perspective, staff recommends approval to have the property designated as residential. And if you'll notice on the zoning map, which is the last page of the staff report, the city limits are in that pinkish red color, but all the brown is residential. Everything around it's residential, except for this one piece. It's resource conservation. It was just an error. We just stumbled across this one as well. So thought while we were bringing one, we might as well bring another one.
Okay.
And again, this isn't for development or anything. It's already developed with one mobile home, and they couldn't get a second unit on there anyway.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Wade.
Lisa, I have one question, and it's a doozy, but I'm looking at the plat. The plat showing a 50-foot right-of-way easement, which is shown on the GIS map, but they're not using that. And there's actually a home in that easement.
So, these are, does the plat show the home in it?
No, the plat doesn't show the encroaching home, but according to the GIS map, there's a home sitting almost in the middle of that.
Yeah, and I think there's been some land disputes between the landowners there. The subdivision was created for a family, but when the family members sold this to this lady, and I think one of them's tried to block the access, so the road doesn't even exist. The road that's shown it is non-existent. So the aerial view, as you know, it's not 100% accurate. Only a plat would show us where that mobile home is.
Right.
And I would just say, when we go out and do inspections, if those property lines aren't marked, it's really hard when you're out there to know where they are.
Well, I know I have the same issue.
Yeah.
But I know I don't see any problem in changing the zoning or anything. It's just that when we get back to trying to do the driveway initiative that you were going through, this is not going to meet those criteria because it's being accessed by looks like a driveway across somebody else's yard, 2 of them. So,
yeah.
Just a little bit of a mess there.
Yeah,
Okay,
and I do know there's been a land dispute about it, but what's become of it, I don't know.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, is there any other question, any other commissioner?
Nope.
Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Also move that we approve for residential tax map number 038-01-00-003.
I'll second it, Bill Young.
A motion by Mr. Wade, second by Mr. Bill Young. All ready for question?
Question.
Hearing none, all in favor of such motion, let it known by saying aye. Or anyone against by the same sign? Hearing none, the motion is carried unanimously. The next thing on our agenda for this evening is open discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I've got one question for the commission.
Yeah.
Lisa, I sent you an email this afternoon regarding the county map, the GIS map. Is anybody else having trouble with that map populating all of the individual parcels in the county? I've attempted to open that map dozens of times over the last 4 to 6 weeks, and I don't get a complete map. And I've tried it at different internet, sources as far as internet speed and stuff like that. And I can't get the complete map. The complete county populates, but all of the individual parcels don't populate.
Are you using the Q Publix or are you using the GIS web map?
Lisa, I'm going to the county site and go into where it says services. And then when you click that, you get a drop down that says online web map, which is what I've always used. But here in the last month or 6 weeks, it's not populating all of the parcels.
Well, I think they were building a new map or something like that. So I understood that map hadn't been updated in a while, and I thought Carrie McAllister was working on one, but she told me she'd send me a link, and I haven't gotten it yet. So I don't know that it's ready.
Well, but 2 months ago it was fine. 2 months ago, that very same map, accessing it that same way, was complete.
The administrators, he received some comments about it, and like it didn't show all the information that a person was hunting.
Right.
So I think maybe it had been disabled, or I thought it'd been disabled. Maybe it's only disabled somewhat. I'd have to check on that. But I could tell you, if you go to the county website and you go to the assessor's office department and go to links, and then you could search property records. And if you go to search property records, you can you'll be accessing the Q Publix map, and you can search it by name, tax map number, or address.
But you can't, but that's not a map that just.
It is a map. It's the map that I printed for your packages.
Okay.
It's the map I use.
Okay. I'll try that.
Yes. Okay. And I did see where you sent me an email, but there was no content in it. So I was confused. I said, I don't know if he meant to send me that or not.
That doesn't surprise me the way my day's gone. I probably thought about what I wanted to tell you or ask you and then hit send button.
Okay.
Forgive me. That's what I
was
wanted
okay.
On that same subject, Lisa, do you have any idea when they're going to fly the county again?
I understand they already did, and that IT has those new pictures. But I haven't seen them. I mean, I know of one employee who has access to them, but that's it. I've asked, and I haven't seen them. So it'd be nice if they uploaded on Q Publix, because then we could see what's happened in the past 5 years, because it's been 5 years.
Yep.
Ms. Wagner, I was listening on the county council meeting they had on May 3rd.
Yes.
And I noticed they did some kind of study on the water problem they had down there in south end of the county.
Yes.
And, if I understood them correctly, they said that was low flat land, and there was no way that water to go to a big body of water to drain that area. I didn't see that they asked the question what they could do, and it seemed like they didn't seem to give them a direct answer. So that water need to find some way to get to the Savannah River.
So it actually needs a push, I think, was the whole point. Is it's so flat. And so one of the suggestions was to divert it or to build a dam around that property they want to protect to kind of make it go somewhere. But I know that some of that would require permitting through FEMA, especially building a dam around the property. And then sometimes you do have to worry, is that going to cause some flooding either upstream or downstream? So I think And I wasn't really involved in that study because if you know, basically at the same time we're doing the Savannah River study, and part of that area was in there. Of course, ours was a mapping effort. Theirs was more of a trying to find the problem and come up with a solution. So Mr. Fulgham did say he would put me in touch with that group that's working on that for us to work together to see maybe what recommendations we can bring back to the county council. But anyway you go, you're looking at some money. So that company was also, they said they had a person on staff who is familiar with applying for grants. So they were going to see if there's any money out there to apply for grants as well.
Yeah, 'cause I mean, what I was understanding, if you move it off one set of people, you're gonna put the water on somebody else. Because it's flat, it's not a big body where that water can go to, even if the state do their ditches and everything. There's no place in that quarter where there's a big body of water where that water can go to. It's just when the ground get full, everybody in that area got a water problem.
Yes, and we all know there's a development planned in the future. I mean, nothing like concrete yet, but you know, you have the Sherwood track and you have the Riverport track. So the more development you bring in, usually in a flood zone, usually you'll have more flooding.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, Bill Young.
Yeah.
On
Mr.
the,
Young,
I've asked Andy about what the county really needs to do is get some type of drainage plan for the county, because the ditches that were dug years ago are all filled up with trees and things like that. Good example of that is on 336 here, where Good Hope is at, anyway, U-Haul Creek runs through that area, and something has dammed up or caused a blockage in that area, and you see about 20 acres of dead trees in there because they're standing in water. They're hardwoods, and some pines that have died too. And it's just something the county sooner or later has to go do something about, because we can't continue to build all these big developments and dump the water on the adjacent properties. And it's go snowball the way construction is going now. That's all. Thank you.
yeah, well, that's something that I have been paying close attention, even in the area up here, the northern end of the county. I've been here all my life in areas that I have never seen wet. Now, a certain time of the year, you 4 to 5 feet underwater, and there's no way for that water to go. And as they were explaining in the county council meeting, when you got low flat land and it's not an avenue for that water to go to a bigger body of water, that if you take it off one person, you're gonna put it on somebody else.
That's
So
correct.
we need to do some studies so the whole county can benefit and get the water going. Like you say, all the old outfall ditches is grown up. And even if the state clean their ditches, the water off the road still have to go somewhere. And when the outfall ditches hadn't been cleaned out and they don't have right of way to go on these people's property, we've got a major problem.
Mr. Pinckney, may I make a comment?
Yes.
To Mr. Young's point and your point as well, and I'm a little more, I'm kind of intimately familiar with the county drainage ditches. Back in 1998, when Mr. Rudy Smith was the director of the Roads and Bridges Department, or whatever it was called back then, I trapped beavers out of those drainage canals. There's 93 miles of the big drainage canals that were dug. I believe it started back in the 1930s or 40s. those big drainage canals, and they were kept relatively clean back in the 90s and the early 2000s when I was trapping the beavers in there. And I wasn't charging the county for it. I was doing it as a service and as a hobby. But anyway, I've had occasion to be, I plunder Jasper County quite frequently. I mean, I hunt one end of the county to the other just about. But anyway, those ditches have grown up, and it's my understanding, because I've asked about it, it's my understanding that the equipment needed to keep those big wide canals clean, the county does not own because of the cost of such equipment, and that we have to rent that equipment to keep those ditches clean. And it's basically, it sounds to me like it's a matter of funding for that particular department to have the equipment and the manpower. And I'm not saying that's the ultimate answer to the whole county's drainage problems, but I think it would be a good starting point, you know, to try to rally some funding for the county maintenance department to have the proper equipment. Because I was just up in the Pineland area back during deer season on some property across from Dairy Plantation, and that particular canal is one I trapped 20-something, 30-something years ago, and it was clean. And now there's trees in it 12, 14, 16 inches in diameter, and there's no way the water can flow through there with those obstructions. And it's just a matter of the county doesn't have the manpower and the money to clean those canals out. So that might be a good starting point, is trying to figure out how to fund some equipment. And there very well may be some grant money that could be pursued for something like that because of the flooding. So just my comments.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
can I make one comment, please? Or maybe just ask one question. Mr. Chairman, I'm glad you brought that question up. I think it was one day last week, I was reading the newspaper where they about $42 or $43 million to widen the road from Hardyville Cross. I think that's where the port is coming. And then my concern is that on 462, 278, those road has potholes in them. And I just can't understand how all of a sudden the state can come up with $43 million to widen this road from Hardyville, I think, on the South Carolina side where the port is coming. And we can't even get 462 paved. We can't even get road paved in Jasper County. And we not only have water problem in our rural area, we need to ride on some of these main highways when we got a lot of rain. You have to slow down in order to pass through the roads. We have a major problem. And I don't know if it's going to take us to get with County Council and maybe sit down and talk some of this stuff out. But the problem is really getting dire.
Mr. Pinckney.
Yes, Dr. Barton.
Okay, I wasn't sure. I'm having trouble with my phone. Where is the piece of property, Lisa, that they were talking about damming around? Is that in the Puresburg area?
No, actually it's on Highway 17 across from the recycle center that the county has there
Oh,
at
okay.
Toomerville Loop.
Right.
So it's across Highway 17. It's Mr. Wright's property.
Okay. And what Mr. Smith said in regard to the beavers, Dale Terry came out because of a problem I shared with some of you related to the where the trailer park is. There's a huge canal that runs back through that neighborhood to Savannah River. And he said right now there are at least 3 areas where beavers have dammed up. And in addition to that, there's some trees down. So Randy's absolutely right. That's a huge problem that would impact everybody in our area, in the Puresburg area. And finally, Lisa, I wanted to ask if there has been any movement on getting some type of study done of the Puresburg area to look at the flood zone. We talked about that a while back, and I knew that you were working with Hardyville to get some.
Yes, we're doing the Savannah River flood study. It would, it goes from the southern portion of the Savannah River up to the Beck's Ferry Crossing, and it is on the desk of FEMA right now. They're doing the review. They've sent us comments twice now, and we've answered them. One of their major comments is the study would update 5 of the flood panels, and that's a physical map revision. But in order for FEMA to change the maps physically, there has to be funding to produce the maps. So they don't have any funding, and that's one of their comments. Or are we going to have any funding? Well, we don't either. So, you know, our goal was to help the citizens out, for everybody along within that study area that used to not be in an A zone, but the new flood maps put them in an A zone. They're having to pay the highest bit of flood
Insurance.
insurance.
Yeah.
So we're saying, well, we just want a letter of map amendment, so that people can get their insurance at a lower rate. You know, it would establish the base flood elevations. It would just be a letter of map amendment. So we're waiting to hear back from them, but we're hoping that they'll soon approve it.
So no action has been actually taken on the study at this point.
No, the contractor did all the work, and again, they've submitted to FEMA, so we're just waiting on FEMA at this point.
Is there anything the residents can do? This conversation came up recently here where I live. Is there anything people that live out here that are paying these high, cost of flood insurance? Is there anything they could do?
Well, I think at this point we're almost there. We didn't expect to get the second round of comments, but that physical map revision was on both sets of comments. One thing that, the first set of comments, we had to get Garden City to sign off because they're across the river, and we were having a hard time getting in touch with the right person over there to sign the flood study. It's a review, they have to sign it saying they've reviewed it and concur with it. We're not sure why that we didn't feel that should be the case, since they're not in South Carolina, but we did accomplish that. And then they made us do public hearing notices, and we've done that, and we provide them with it. So I think we're almost at the finish line now. So I really don't know of anything. Maybe just pray.
Okay. Well, thank you. I know you've
Sure.
been working on it. Thank you.
I have a question, Mr. Pinckney, for Lisa. Some time ago, Andy gave us some material. They were doing a proposal for impact fee studies. Is this kind of situation where you have development going in that may be causing some of these problems with draining? Is that calculated into their impact fees? Or would this impact fee include these long range things that are happening to the county, which is a result of mostly, I would suspect, some type of development, maybe?
So, all of the planned development districts are quite old. They're probably, for the most part, they are 14 and 15 years old. So we set up the development impact fees in those planned development districts. Of course, there was like the Peninsula PDD was one of the first PDDs that Jasper County approved. And at that time, it didn't have development fees in there. So basically, this consultant is going to look at all the developments that we know of that's coming, and these approved PDDs and the densities that are approved. And they're going to look at the services that need to be provided if all these people do come here, and the development fees that are associated with it, to see if those should be different. In the peninsula where there is no fees, maybe there needs to be a development fee. Maybe it's for the Cherry. So it'll really be looked at as a whole area. Maybe the Cherry Point area is different than the Gillisonville area. So that's the purpose in it, is to do a study and to assess basically what we've approved. Is it enough? Where we should be, or what kind of fees we should set up, outside of the development agreements, basically for all of
That's
the
what I'm
county.
asking, as you're calculating these fees, are you putting into that equation the problem that we're having with drainage and runoff? Is that made a part of that fee structure?
No, it's really not. I mean, roads are there. So you have roads, you have schools, you have fire protection. But drainage is not, you have libraries, parks, but drainage is not per se one of those categories they look at.
Because you were talking about the development that's going on down at, what was the area down there where they right outside of Partyville, the park?
Riverport and Sherwood, a lot of that can be addressed through good stormwater management where you're having to retain your stormwater runoff on site, especially for a period of time, but also just the landscaping changes with development. So, but I think Mr. Smith is certainly right about, I know every time Mr. Terry from Public Works goes out and looks at an area that seems like the water's not flowing, he finds beaver dams. And I think it's a lack of maintenance, maintaining these drainage canals with the trees growing in them and not cleaning them up so that the water can freely pass. But I think the county is aware that they need a master drainage plan.
Mr. Chairman, Bill Young.
Yes, Mr. Bill.
Yeah, one of the major problems is the county has no right of ways to go on private property to clean out these drains that were constructed probably back during the CCC days or something like that. They just dug a ditch wherever it was needed to be dug, and like you say, over the years, they've deteriorated to where they're ineffective. So it's going to take some major requirements by the county to either get right of ways and dig major across there, and maybe with the federal government, with all this free money they're giving away, maybe Jasper County could get some, since we're one of the poorest counties. Thank you.
Mr. Young, back in the late 90s and early 2000s, my understanding was, and I had access through the county to all of those ditch banks, that 93 miles that start up in Pineland area and go all the way to Hardyville. The county does have a right of way to those drainage canals. Now, if it's not a county drainage canal, I don't know, but those 93 miles of canals, the county does have a right of way to.
You're right there. That doesn't take care of all the flat land.
Right.
This south area, though, like Ridgeland Lakes dumps their water into this ditch by the highway. And when they have a lot of rain, that causes problems with people living across the highway. So there's all kind of problems. Thank you.
Well, that's what I was saying. We always have the saying that development pays its own way. But, when you cause problems like that, there should be funds available to solve that problem somewhere in the equation.
And my point of that was it's not developed yet, so, but I think everybody realizes that there are areas there. I think, especially in that area, I think we're going to have some base flood elevations, but so we're going to have more information on where these structures need to be built in the future than what we have today and yesterday. But I think everybody's they realize more and more that there's an issue in that particular area. And I agree with Mr. Young. We have an issue countywide as far as some of the drainage. And I think the county's aware of that.
Good.
No further discussion. I'm ready to entertain a motion that we stand adjourned to our next scheduled meeting.
So
Commissioner
moved.
Jenkins, so move.
Second.
Good evening.
So everybody in favor, let nobody say aye.
Aye.
Okay, everybody have a blessed evening and be safe. And encourage your neighbor to get